Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the S4Z Sports All Access pregame show, week 2 of the high school football season for Sean Williams. Producing the show, I'm merely Tom Strasser, and I'm honored to be joined by my partner in crime, a man who needs no introduction, but let's give him one anyway. He is the voice of high school football, the one and only Darren McCullough, D-Train and Train. Looking back at week 1, I tell you, all 3 area teams had some excitement on Friday night.
And Thursday with the Bobcats. So it was definitely an exciting weekend. Unfortunately, 1 out of the 3 picked up the W, but it was definitely nice being able to watch a live stream on all 3 of them. Watched all 3 games over the weekend, and there's definitely a lot of kids that are excited to watch this year. There's a lot of talented players, and it's going to be a fun season.
Yeah, Meadowbrook getting a big opening night win victory over the Maysville Panthers, a defense that really dominated that game throughout. And Cambridge and Buckeye Trail, both teams got behind the 8 ball early, getting down 2 scores, but after that, they really showed themselves extremely well.
Yeah, Cambridge had a great second half. It seemed like Garrett Carpenter, Coach Leake's been bragging him up all leading up to the season about how he's going to be a player, and I'm officially on that bandwagon after week 1. And with Buckeye Trail, I mean, you know firsthand, Cohen Egan's, he's a stud over there at Buckeye Trail, and he's going to be a force to deal with. And those are some tough week 1 opponents. Like Coach Leake said, biggest offensive line you're going to see in high school football with Indian Creek and Caldwell is just always a solid, tough program, and you're going to learn a lot from week 1 to week 2. And I'm sure they've hit the practice field this week, and they're going to be ready to play Friday against their opponents.
Now, we have an exciting show for you. Thanks for joining us here on the S4Z Sports All Access pregame show. We're going to take our first time out, and when we come back, we'll talk some Cambridge football and listen to the Bobcats coach Ray Leake and preview their upcoming game against the John Glenn Muskies after this timeout. Tom Strasser here with S4Z Sports All Access, joined by the head football coach of the Cambridge Bobcats, Ray Leake. And Coach, last week you played an Indian Creek team that probably had the biggest line in the Ohio Valley. Yeah. This week you've got a John Glenn team that may have the most experienced offensive line, 4 returning starters, 194 yards rushing. Again, a tall task for your Bobcats.
Yeah, I mean, Indian Creek, we knew what they were going to do. Big line, strong back, so it's kind of the similar situation with John Glenn. You know, you said a lot of returners, a lot of guys with big size, good running back. They'll spread it out a little bit more. They won't be as one-dimensional as Creek, so we'll have to be more balanced and stop the run first. So,
and Coach, when you look at, you always bring out the music, and I tell you what, some positives defensively. Indian Creek, their size really wore on your young defense. A couple of times it looked like they had a chance to put the game away, but you had to be pleased with your red zone defense. They got down there and you were able to turn them away a couple of times.
Yeah, our kids battled. You know, you definitely got to give our kids credit for battling. I think, again, like we said in the pregame show, the more experience we get, the more we're under the lights there, the better we're going to be. So a lot of conditioning, a lot of getting our guys used to playing that game speed, because we didn't have a lot of returners this year. So the more we can get reps that are live, the better we're going to be. And, you know, hats off to our defense for holding them out there. But, you know, positives from that game, too.
Oh, Coach, and speaking of positives, offensively, first half you moved the ball, went to the locker room with a goose egg on the scoreboard. You put 25 points on the board in the second half. That was huge.
Yeah, we got our feet under us offensively. You know, we got to go in the second half. Again, we got the nerves out. We got more experience. We just relaxed and played football. So if we can do that and play that second half of football like we did, you know, we'll be happy with where we're at and just continue to get better every day.
And you're an experienced team against John Glenn. Last thing, they pitched a shutout Friday night against Circleville, held them to less than 100 yards total offense. What are you going to have to do to come out with a big win in their backyard?
Yeah, we're gonna have to execute offensively. We got playmakers. We just gotta relax and just do our thing offensively. Go up tempo, just play our game. That's all we have to do, and make sure that we can keep our quarterback upright, get the run game going a little bit more, stay a little bit more balanced. If we do that, we'll be just fine.
All right, Coach, thanks for joining us here on 740 Sports All Access, and look forward to seeing you back in the studio soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach Leak, and it's always great getting able to visit with him and train, actually going out there on site and getting a few sound bites. And their game with Indian Creek, he talked about how big their offensive line was, how good their running game was, and it really came to turn out to be a profit.
Well, first, I think there's a lot of Ohio high school teams that need to thank the teams that played Thursday night, because they were the ones that took the brunt of the punishment of the weather delays. And I think this has been 3 straight years, if not longer, that we've had either Thursday night game, a Friday night game, or a Saturday night game get delayed till the wee hours in the morning. I know it didn't start up. There was 5:13, something like that, left in the game, and it didn't start up till 11 o'clock, so that's way past my bedtime for that. But yes, like you said, Coach Leak and the offensive line, he knew they were monstrous. The White brothers, 77-74. Luke McMillan was another force that was on both sides, playing defensive tackle and a guard position. I mean, they paved the way for a running game. That Zion McGee, solid runner, had over 100 yards rushing in the first half, finished with over 250 yards and 2 touchdowns. Their quarterback, Zach Byard, who probably is one of their better all-around athletes, had over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns as well. So, I mean, when you're running behind those monsters, when I think the one kid's 6'6", 350, I mean, you don't see NFL offensive linemen that big. So just really a tough week 1 task, and I don't think Cambridge is going to see an offensive line that dominant probably all year.
And train Indian Creek, they wanted to come in, wear down the smaller Bobcat defense, and it looked like a couple of times the Redskins had a chance to put the game away, getting down in the red zone. But credit to Cambridge defense. They got a couple of big stops down there, kept the offense in the game, and then in the second half, the offense, after having a goose egg the first half, put 25 points on the board.
Yeah, Cambridge defense did a great job in the red zone. I think they kind of packed the box a little bit more. Indian Creek kind of went to more of a wishbone offense instead of running out of the pistol, and it was able to let Cambridge kind of get bunched in there and pack the box, and it allowed them to make some stops. And like you said, offensively things started clicking. I'm sure Coach Leak and his staff made some adjustments, talked about some things at halftime. And Garrett Carpenter had a great game, especially in the second half. I think he threw for 277 yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, Devin Ogle proved that he may be the best receiver in the area, 11 catches for 111 yards and 2 touchdowns. And you just saw, for a sophomore, Garrett Carpenter, you saw a kid that was poised and composed. I know one time he got hit. I mean, I don't want to say it was a late hit. From the view you're looking at on the TV, it's kind of hard to tell, but it was right in front of Indian Creek's bench, and he got hit pretty hard. And that might have been a little. He was wearing 15, so I was thinking Patrick Mahomes. Like, if that was Patrick Mahomes, that's going to be a flag every time. But there was no call, and I think the next play he came back and dropped a beautiful pass into somebody else, and that just shows a lot of composure. Being able to take a hit like that and then to come back from that adversity shows a lot of mental toughness that kid has at such a young age.
Yeah, Keaton Kaiser had a nice game for the Bobcats, as well as Eli Edwards, that electrifying 77-yard touchdown reception as well. So Cambridge, like we said, really showed a lot, especially in the second half, and they're going to have to keep that momentum against a very tough John Glenn Muskie squad Friday night.
Yeah, John Glenn went to Circleville and beat them 28-0 Friday night. Going in, they knew they had a good running game. They had finished with 194 yards rushing against Circleville. Lincoln Gilcher was their bell cow, had 20 carries, 92 yards, and 2 touchdowns. They got an experienced offensive line. 4 of their 5 starters are returning, so a lot of guys have meshed together, and they they got an active defense, and I know the Bobcats like to pass. John Glenn picked off 5 passes over Circleville against Circleville. Andrew Glob had 2, and Owen Edwards, who was Coach Edwards' son at John Glenn, he returned 1 to the house. And defensively, they only gave up 85 yards to Circleville. So definitely their defense created for their offense last Friday for John Glenn.
Yeah, and it's going to be important that Cambridge is able to get the running games going some. They didn't have much success against the Redskins because you don't want to just be passing every play and let the Muskies defense tee off on a Carpenter, who, like you said, is a sophomore, but boy, does he play with a lot of poise. But Train, the difference when you look at the Bobcat defense again, last week you had the biggest offensive line, just trying to maul you and wear you down throughout the game. And give Indian credit, they were able to do that in stretches. John Glenn, now you look at their experienced line, John Glenn can run the football, but they're going to spread you out and do it. So they are so multi-dimensional offensively.
Yeah, and they got a lot of different weapons. Over the years, it's always been those 1 or 2 guys that you've really had to watch out. Like Nathan Walker was their big play receiver last year. 2 years ago, they had Nathan Walker and Colt Emerson, who, if nobody's paid attention, Colt Emerson, if you've been living under a rock or something, Colt Emerson got drafted by the Seattle Mariners in this year's MLB draft, and the kid is having a fantastic start to his Major League Baseball career. He finished up with their complex league and recently and finished batting over 500, got a hit in every game he played in. So amazing. Wish nothing but success for Colt. He's got great parents in Jamie and Stacy, a great kid. Wish him nothing but success. But to the game, I mean, Coach Edwards talked about he has a lot of different weapons that he can go to as receivers, but they're going to rely on that running game, and they're going to rely on that offensive line clear and pass for those guys.
And I tell you what, John Glenn, they can also, like we said, they'll spread you out, but they can throw the ball downfield. They have quality receivers, and it ought to be a tough game for Cambridge, but Cambridge seems to be playing big games every week. Train, if Cambridge is going to go to New Concord and pull off an upset against the favored Muskies, what's a couple of things they're going to have to do?
Well, you hinted on it there when you said they got to get the running game going. I know people like to see the spread and a bunch of passing, but it was hard to run on Indian Creek because they controlled the offensive and defensive lines. But I think Cambridge can have a little bit more success with the different variety of running backs they have. I know their delayed draw play that they ran a couple times against Indian Creek worked, but I think they're going to be able to run the ball a little bit better. And again, I don't know if there's somebody who's going to be able to match up with Devin Ogle. If anybody saw his 5-yard touchdown reception against Indian Creek where he mossed the kid, it was just an amazing catch, and I think he's going to be a tough matchup for a lot of people.
But Coach Leak will have the Bobcats ready to play, and when we was out at their practice this week, a team that's very energized. So that wraps up our Cambridge Bobcat segment. We're going to take a timeout, and when we come back, we'll talk a little Buckeye Trail Warrior football here on the 740 Sports All Access. Welcome back to this week's edition of the 740 Sports All Access pregame show. We talked a little Cambridge Bobcat football. Now, let's turn our attention to the Buckeye Trail Warriors. And before we talk Warrior football, we had a chance to get out to practice and hear a few sound bites from the head football coach of the Warriors, the one and only Donnie Kearns. Let's hear from Coach Kearns now. Sports All Access, live out here at Buckeye Trails practice, home of the Warriors. We're honored to be joined by the head football coach of the Buckeye Trail Warriors, Donnie Kearns. And Coach, last week against Caldwell, you kind of got behind the 8 ball early, got down 2 quick scores, and it was an uphill battle the rest of the night.
Yeah, I mean, it sure was. We after those first 2 scores, I guess we kind of outscored them, but that doesn't matter. They won the football game, and we couldn't get out of our own way all night.
And Coach, you've been in a lot of crazy games. The last 2:20 of the first half, it's a 1-score game, 14-6, and 2 minutes and 20 seconds later, you're in the locker room down 33-14. How crazy was that ending of the first half?
Yeah, we even ran 40 seconds off the clock trying to get to halftime. I mean, I don't know. I've never seen anything like it, and I don't know how. I don't know how it happened. And I don't know how they scored in 2 plays. 14 seconds, they scored in 2 plays. I mean, that's something that we have to fix.
But Coach, you want to respond second half. You first drive, go down and score. It's a 2-score game, and you look back after watching the film. 272 yards rushing against a quality defense. What are some of the other positives you took out of that game going into your home opener against the Huskies Friday night?
Our kids never quit. They didn't. I mean, our kids fought right to the end, and that's important. That tells that that tells the quality of kid that we have. The culture and all that. The kids never quit, and they could have. And they could have quit when they got down 14-0. They could have quit when they were down 3 scores at halftime. And heck, they battled right there to the end, and that's a lot to be proud of.
And Coach, this Friday night, home opener, another big challenge with the Harrison Central Huskies coming in. What problems do they possess, and what are you going to have to do to get that first win Friday night?
Yeah, they're big, they're athletic, they're fast, they're physical, they're tough. They present a lot of problems, and we're banged up. I think they're kind of banged up, so. We're just going to have to fight to the end and keep getting better each game. If we get better from week 1 to week 2, that's really all we can ask for, and then we'll see where we're at the end of the game.
All right, Coach, thanks for joining us. We'll let you get back to practice, and this is 740 Sports All Access coming to you live from the Baker Activity Complex here on the campus of Buckeye Trail High School. Thank you, Coach Kearns and Train. Buckeye Trail, like Cambridge, got behind the 8 ball early, down 2 scores, but again, really got themselves back in the game, but just had a few opportunities they were unable to capitalize on.
Yeah, they got behind 14-0. The big fumble in their second offensive play of the game. They were in the red zone, couldn't score. A failed fake punt attempt. Just seemed like anything that could go wrong went wrong for them early, but they slowly started regrouping and battled back. And unfortunately, I think the Warriors just really more or less ran out of time. If you take away that little bit of first half, they battled tooth and nail with the Redskins.
And Train, in basketball, my favorite phrase is spurtability. And boy, were the Caldwell Redskins the epitome of the definition of spurtability. Really, Coach Kearns talked a little bit about it, but I thought the whole game changed. The Warriors down 14-6, 2:20 left in the first half. Caldwell has the ball at the Redskin at the Warrior 45-yard line. So that, right around midfield, 2:20 left, you're thinking, hey, Warriors are going to get to the locker room in good shape. 2 minutes and 20 seconds later, the Warriors are going off the field down 33-14. 4 touchdowns in 2 minutes and 20 seconds, 3 of them by the Redskins. And now the Warriors were down 3 scores instead of 1. Wow.
Yeah, talk about the most exciting 2 minutes and 20 seconds of football. Bender, who, congratulations to him, he threw for over 300 yards in the game, and he's Caldwell's all-time leading passing yardage leader, so congratulations to him. And Coach Kearns last week when he was up in the studio said he's a handful, and obviously he lived up to that, had 4 touchdown passes and 2 touchdown runs, but he had the big 43-yard touchdown pass to Parks. Unfortunately, Buckeye Trail fumbled it back to them. Bender found Hurlin, a 20-yard touchdown pass on a screen. Buckeye Trail comes right back, a great return by Egan. Then Travis Dodd finishes it off with a 19-yard run. And then Bender throws a fade route right at the buzzer, or 5 seconds left, 10 yards to Hurlin again. And all of a sudden, 33-14, like you said. So sports in general is a game of momentum. If you got momentum going your way, I don't care if it's football, basketball, baseball, soccer, golf, cross country, whatever. You have the momentum, you're going to play better, and you'll feel better.
And you learn a lot about teams trained through adversity. The Warriors, like we said, you go from a 6-point game to now down 19, three-score game at halftime. Credit Coach Kearns and his coaching staff and the kids, the way they responded. They come out opening drive of the third quarter, get a touchdown, get it within 2 scores, and then it stays there. They get down inside the 10-yard line twice during this game. And credit the Redskins, the Warriors come away empty-handed, and then at the end got down inside the 20 and were turned away. So, they had opportunities, but again, you got to tip your helmet sometimes to the other team and give the Redskins credit.
Yeah, there's a couple turnovers, and then like you said, in the red zone when, bend but don't break. That's the old defensive adage, and that's how the Caldwell Redskins were living by. They were just making sure they didn't cross the pylon, and it's just a tough situation, but really there's a lot of positives Buckeye Trail's got from that game.
And let's talk about the first one right off the bat. How about the game Cohen Egan had?
10 carries, 102 yards, had a 10-yard touchdown run, a 28-yard touchdown run, and he had the 90-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. I believe he had 2 kickoff returns for touchdowns last year. I guarantee you he's going to top that this year. He also had a great 32-yard reception. So, that kid, he's a baller. He's a baller, that's for sure.
Yeah, and the Warrior defense, they held the high-power offense in the second half of the Redskins. Give them credit to only 6 points, and they were led by their linebacker duo. Charlie Perry had 10 tackles. Brady Hastings had 4 tackles for loss.
Those are just 2 studs right there. Charlie Perry had a great all-around game. Offensively, he played that fullback position in their shotgun tee or wing tee, however they run it. He powered his way up through the middle a lot, took a lot of hits offensively, and defensively he delivered a lot of hits. And Brady Hastings, again, another kid. He's going to be a tough matchup on some teams with his size as a receiver. And defensively, that kid's about as strong as you get for a high school kid.
Yeah, and Travis Dodd, him and Williams quarterbacking for the Warriors, alternating. Dodd with a big touchdown run. Williams hit some big passes, and now the Warriors turn their attention, home opener at Old Washington Friday night against a very athletic Harrison Central team, a team that has really, their community dealt with tragedy.
Yeah, you and I have both dealt with this over the years, as I lost one of their students last week, so definitely our condolences go to the Caddis and Harrison Central family. It's tough for a community, but they really did a great job of rallying together, and congratulations to them on their big win, 36-19 over Claymont. Hayden Cassidy's their stud QB. Really spreads it around, threw completed passes to 8 different receivers, had 2 touchdown passes, a rushing touchdown, chipped in 236 yards passing. They got a solid running back, Parker Hutton, solid receiver. He had 10 catches, 155 yards, including a 77-yarder, so he's a big play receiver. Alex Fluharty, 8-yard touchdown pass. And Michael Keto's, their running back, finished with 61 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, again, Buckeye Trail's defense going to have their hands full against a very strong Harrison Central team.
Yeah, and again, Hayden Cassidy, outstanding quarterback. You complete 8 passes in a high school football game, a lot of people will say, that's a pretty solid game. You complete 8 passes to 8 different receivers. That's going next level. So Buckeye Trail, little banged up, but they'll circle the wagons, and a big home crowd expected Friday night. A couple of keys for the Warriors as we get ready to head to break, if they're going to pull off what many people would consider a minor upset. I
think continue to play that second half defense they played against Caldwell. Limit the big plays, take care of the football, and continue to offensively play Buckeye Trail football. As I think Coach Kern's attitude and effort, I think is what their logo is here. So they got to play with some attitude and some effort and really control the clock. I know Coach Kern loves being able to control the time of possession, and if they have the football, the other team's not going to be able to score, and that's way he wants to keep it.
Yeah, and the Warriors have to get off to a better start than they did against Caldwell, not play from behind, and I like their chances. So that concludes our Buckeye Trail Warrior segment this evening. We'll take a timeout, and when we come back, we'll be joined live in studio by the head football coach of the Meadowbrook Colts and talk Meadowbrook football with the one and only Coach Steve Norman after this timeout here on the 740 Sports All Access pregame show. Welcome back to the 740 Sports All Access pregame show. And we want to once again thank Park Circle Cafe for sponsoring not only tonight's show, but the entire season of our pregame show. So thank you, Park Circle Cafe. And speaking of thank yous, we are honored to be joined by the head football coach of the Meadowbrook Colts. That would be the 1-0 Meadowbrook Colts. And Coach Norman, thanks for joining us. And wow, the kids, they had to feel awful good after their performance Friday night.
Yeah, well, one, thanks for having us in. Appreciate the chance to talk about our program. But yeah, you do everything in the off season really for 10 guaranteed opportunities to compete on a Friday night. And the first one, exciting. The new turf got unveiled, and a little bit of construction here and there, but the atmosphere of the game was great. The outcome obviously was what we're looking for, the kids were they were super emotional, and we try to encourage them to because you do put so much time in preparing for week one, the whole off season. Then when it comes and you have success, you want them to enjoy it. So we try to give them that time to enjoy that, and then Monday when they come back, we start looking at week two. But it was a great performance, great atmosphere, obviously great outcome for us.
And Coach, before Train gets into the game against the Panthers, the one thing that really stood out to me in watching the game was your kids. Here's a team that really took it on the chin last year with all your young kids. Gave up 40 points a game, I believe what it was. A lot of times with the schedule you had, it was trying to keep from becoming a running clock. So then you turned the page this year with so many of your kids back. The confidence that they came out and played with, they had an expectation to win that game instead of hoping to win it. And I just want you to discuss what was, the feeling going up and the confidence level with you and the players.
Yeah, well, we felt, again, going from, last year, a lot of those kids, they got experience. And, it's not that, I would always say, just describing last year, like our practices and stuff were always pretty high energy. Like they were, good. Like if you were just a spectator coming and watching us practice last year, you wouldn't have thought that we were, 1-9. So knowing that we had those kids coming back, who essentially they just enjoy, the process of getting ready to play. Our expectations certainly are higher, as those kids get older. But we felt like our defense was going to, play better. We were obviously had some concerns with, Maysville with the style of play, whether it was going to be in the gun, whether it was going to be under center, whether it was going to be more of the wing tee, so we did have a lot of concerns as far as that was concerned. But, as far as our kids, getting ready, their preparation to play has been high, throughout the summer. And I credit our defensive staff. Those guys, they're high energy guys, from, Coach Dalton and, the guys that he has with him, and Coach Jones and, Coach Balls and Coach Hare and Coach Sechrist. Those guys bring, Coach Flowers, those guys are high energy guys themselves. And the kids have been high energy. So that part was, I felt pretty good that our defense was going to play well. They, up until that last drive of the first half, and I don't know just right off the top of my head the final stats, but up until that last drive when we were kind of a little prevent, they got almost half their yards in the first half just on a couple of prevent throws, just trying to run out the clock. But yeah, I thought our defense played lights out. We put them in really too bad. 17 points goes against the defense, but reality is 3 is what they gave up. The 2 touchdowns via the punt team, which was 100% on me. Putting those kids in a really tough spot, on the field, and then I didn't make the proper adjustment for that. So, but the kids responded. In the third, we got the drive. They missed the field goal there, and we got the ball and we converted fourth down, a couple thirds, and then Dalen hits the big score, and then our defense closed it out. So as far as confidence, they just continue to be more confident, and but it was great to get a win, new turf, all the other things that go with it. It was a good night for Bison.
Train, the curse of the old prevent defense because the fans always complain, but then as soon as you get up and play in your base defense and you get burned over the top, what are they saying?
They're complaining because
how did you not have someone 20 yards back, to stop that? So you can't win, Coach, when it comes to that. But except Friday night, you did. So Trey, go ahead.
I tell you what, that was a great historical synopsis of what happened Friday night. Because I was going to talk, I was debating on what to talk about the game-winning drive at the beginning, but I think the beginning kind of set the tone for you guys in a little bit. Because you guys had that opening drive and just slowly, methodically moved down the field, took your time. I tell you, Justice Huey is a different player, in my opinion, compared to last year. I think he's more precise with his passes. He's got a lot more touch on his passes, and it seems like he's getting out of his hands pretty quick, making plays. And I know you kind of mentioned about getting the fourth down conversions on those last drive. Well, the first touchdown pass to the freshman Bentley Cedar, fourth down touchdown pass, 29 yards from Huey to Cedar. Just talk about how big that opening drive was as far as confidence-wise for you guys.
Well, yeah. So one of the team goals we have, at least for offense, was first down drive, no 3 and out. So we wanted to start the game with at least getting a first down, ultimately changing field position. And it was a good drive. And Justice, just you had mentioned his growth from. Last year, game 1 to this year, game 1, totally different kid. But on that, even on the first drive and in the first half, there's a couple of throws that honestly you could cut out and put on film. And you could really put them up against a lot of throws that you'll see throughout the season. Like they couldn't be anywhere else. And Bentley, if you know Bentley, he's a pretty energetic kid. Always got a smile on his face, and very, as a freshman, you can kind of see his ability of what can happen for him.
First touch of first touch is touchdown. You're setting the mark high. Yeah.
So it was a great ball, great obviously great execution on Bentley's part, and honestly, we felt like we could do that, but it was nice to start off like that. So.
And Coach, every head coach when you comes to offense, you talk balance. You want balance. And boy, what can you say about an underrated offensive line coming into this season? No one's talking, much about the offensive line, but we had you 346 yards total offense, 184 passing, 162 rushing. When you have that balance, man, that really sets things up.
Yeah, we thought we would be better up front. Again, older guys getting bigger. I'm pretty sure Mitchell George grew about 6 inches from May to now. But as those guys get, we ask them to do a lot. If you guys are, I know you've watched like the RPO game. It's tough on a lineman because you want to be aggressive at the same time. You can't get downfield. You want to run inside, outside zone, so you don't necessarily have a man. You have an area, which, that's always changing. It's pretty fluid as far as the defense. They move around. They come out in a 3-stack or a 4-line. I mean, it changes a lot. So the offensive line has a lot on them. But, they did great. We do grade our offensive linemen every week. Actually, grade all positions. But, I told them today, so with the numbers, I had told them that, we did have a lot of mistakes being the first game, but they were mistakes that we can live with because they may not have necessarily been on the right guy, but they were on a guy. So, we'll take that going forward. Obviously, we try to get better. But, the balance is huge. I mean, it makes you tougher to scout. It gives teams, they got to prepare for the whole field. So, hopefully that helps us out.
Yeah, and I can't remember what you said, the RPO game. I can't remember. I watched all three of you guys' games, but I know there's a quarterback in the backfield, and there's about 3 or 4 offensive linemen running down the field. He throws it, it's going to be an eligible receiver downfield on somebody. But I can't remember if it was Huey or if it was Carpenter or if it was Williams or Dodd. But quarterback ended up running, pick up 3 or 4 yards. They threw a flag. They're like, wait a minute, that's a run. Yeah. No flag, so definitely was. Like you said, it's key. You got to stay within that 1 yard of the line of scrimmage. I want to talk about individually defense, but I thought you had a handful of kids really step up. Talon Cannon really came in as a big-time player last year in the defense end. I thought him and Colton Snyder really got a lot of pressure and were very forces on the edge. Nick Norman with a big interception for you guys. Cooper McManaway filling that line of older brother Brady being a hard-nosed tackler. And we talked about Will Smalley had that big sack late in the game that really helped you guys persevere. And it was just nice to see. I felt you guys are pretty solid in all aspects of the game defensively.
Yeah, our defense is, they, throughout practice, they preach, get off the football, guys to the football. We pursuit all the way to the end. And again, our linebacking crew, our defensive line, you had mentioned, Colton and Zayden and Deshaun. I mean, they got great pressure just with themselves, just out of a base scheme. We didn't really have to. Obviously, we brought a little heat there with, we did throw, a few blitzes in here and there, but a lot of it was just, those guys playing in the structure of the defense and getting after the quarterback. But our linebacker, again, we grade out all things, and our linebacker core as a unit was over 90%. I think it's pretty evident. We, very few missed tackles. Anytime, we always tell our guys, get in the screen, as far as where the ball carrier is. If you're in the screen, we got a shot. And very few times did we have guys who wouldn't have been in the screen, unless it's a deep pass down the sideline, something like that. But yeah, our total defensive unit played, they played really well. They really, even if the offense would have struggled, our defense was certainly good enough to win that game.
And Coach, tonight, we've talked about Cambridge and Buckeye Trail and gave them credit, with the adversity that they faced and battled and gave themselves a chance in their games. Your team faced adversity just because for 3.5 quarters, you look to be in total control of a football game against a very well-coached and talented Maysville team. You're in control, and then all of a sudden, 5 minutes left, you look up at the scoreboard and wait, we're down 17-12. Your team could have really went, you got to be kidding me. We're going to end up giving this away. But then they responded with that magical drive. What was it, 4 fourth down conversions? And that was just, talk about, where their heads was at when you lost the lead.
Well, to be honest, their demeanor didn't really change. They were, let's go. But the same, for months, we did have. I felt like a pretty good handle on what they were doing offensively. I thought we were able to move the ball at times. We kind of stalled a little bit in the middle. But yeah, they get the block punt, and immediately our guy, they didn't bow their head. Which is a sign of some growth. And then we had the big plays, and then even on Dalen's touchdown, he bounces out and it's like no, and he hits the edge and it's like yes, because we teach that you get one bounce, after that it's stick it and get north and south, and he hit double bounce, and he was able to punch it in, but and then the 2-point play was they couldn't execute it out any better, and then just closing out the game was we got no. Actually, I pulled out the wrong guy because we made anyway. So we had 2 ends. We should have had a third guy, and we only had 2. But those 2 ends were Deshaun and Colton were. They got pressure on the quarterback with 2. So it was like I said, team win. Nice way to start the season.
But you're right, Rivera, 77 yards rushing, and then that big touchdown. By the way, your 2-point conversion, I have sent that film to Josh McDaniels. So I'm hoping the Raiders use that this year. They may need it. And Train, as we wrap things up, let's look ahead. Friday night, big road game against Indian Valley.
Yeah, Indian Valley always, as you know, tough school. usually more of a grinded out team, but they've got a QB in Sam Carter. Had a good opening week through touchdown passes of 59 yards, 13 yards, and 7 yards to Grady Kinsey, Jackson Bircher, and Colton Thomas. And then Kinsey's also a stud runner, had 1 yard and 2 yard touchdown runs. So very kind of more of a balanced attack than what they have been in the past. Usually been a lot of power football, but you got to kind of watch the all-around game for those guys.
Yeah, Indian Valley is, I mean, they are, total team. Like you said, run. They're really downhill running. I ain't gonna lie, I was really disappointed to see them throwing as much as they did. But no, they're super balanced. They have a lot of athletes all over the field. Their offense and defensive line really get off the line. I mean, they really get off the ball. They try to recreate the line of scrimmage on both sides. And it's an old ECOL. Years ago, Indian Valley Meadowbrook in football was it wouldn't have been because you were in the ECOL. We weren't always really at the top of that league. And then as both teams kind of branched out and went different ways, they've had a success for the better half of the last decade or so. So great program, great measuring stick to see where you are week 2. So.
Well, Coach, we want to thank you so much for taking time to join us tonight. Congrats on the big win over the Panthers. And like I said, Panthers, they're going to win their share of football games this year, no doubt about that. And then your big test against Indian Valley, that'll be, one of growth, that's for sure. And want to wish you the best of luck in that showdown there. And that concludes our Meadowbrook football segment. Again, we want to thank Coach Norman here. And we'll take a timeout and wrap things up here on the 740 Sports All Access pregame show. Once again, sponsored by Park Circle Cafe after this timeout.